Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Marketing for the Now. I am here with our first guest, Stephanie from Roblox. Stephanie, how many times have you been to Cannes? Are you a newbie? Are you a veteran?
I feel like I'm a hybrid because I have been many times, but this is our first year coming as Roblox, so I haven't been in 3 years.
Fantastic. And tell us about who you are and what you do at Roblox.
Sure. I have a really fun role. I get to lead Roblox's global brand partnerships and advertising team, so really helping brands. Many of our combined brand friends understand Gen Z and how to authentically tell their stories in immersive spaces.
Fantastic. That sounds pretty incredible. I know we have our CMO circle this afternoon, which
Yes,
I'm so excited
can't
for.
wait.
Those are always such a highlight. But I'm curious, like amongst all of the inspiration and rosé and heat and learning.
Heat.
Heat is the theme of 2026 at Cannes. What's one thing you learned at Cannes today that you didn't know yesterday?
So I think, reflecting on, haven't been here for 3 years, first year at Roblox, something I'm really enjoying this year is I think the through line through everything feels so clear. Like we talked, there's a lot more data, there's a lot more AI and creators, but I think the tone from years past was a little bit more doomsday. And now I think it's way more, how does everything work together? How do we take the tech, the creativity of Cannes, how does that come together in like the evolution of marketing, which I think has been really fun.
Yeah, I think there's an optimistic tone this
Yes.
year. Even as, there are, of course, always challenges in our industry and in the world, but I feel like the tone and tenor is very optimistic this year of how can we bring it together? How can we think at an enterprise level? How can we connect globally? And how can we maximize all of this potential? I think to me, potential feels like another big buzzword, just because in this sort of moment with AI, we're seeing clear use cases, but it's not yet at scale in many places. And potential seems to be the one thing that I'm crystallizing around. So what's your favorite session you've been to so far in Cannes?
Well, obviously all the Vayner ones, but beyond that, yesterday morning I heard the chief digital officer of Taco Bell talk, and he took a really interesting AI HI, and this idea of there's AI, but then there's human intuition, and bringing them together is kind of, he was talking about how they've redone the Taco Bell drive-through, but this like optimism and confidence, and the tone last year I think was, will we have jobs next year? What will we be talking about at Cannes? And I think the tone this year is, taking the human intuition and taking the AI and bringing that together is actually creating all of these new opportunities and also confidence that there's a lot more to be done as marketers.
I like the HI. I'm going to have to infuse that into my vocabulary. So what's the most out there prediction about the future of marketing that you've heard along Croisette this week?
Well, I think one of the exciting things, I also had the opportunity yesterday to hear Dave Dugan, who is the head of ads.
Your former colleague?
My former colleague, friend, wonderful human who's leading ads at OpenAI. And I think what really struck me about that is they're celebrating 19 weeks in the space, thousands of advertisers, and just like the speed of how things can move now is incredible, right? I mean, you can appreciate this as a new mom. Like 19 weeks is like not that long, and to see how quickly marketers can move the space, the behavior, the intent signal, I thought that was really amazing. And this idea of thinking not in terms of incrementality, but exponentiality was fascinating.
Another quotable quote from Stephanie. Okay.
Not mine, stolen, but it did really sink in.
Okay, so you've been here many times in your previous life, in your previous roles, had a lot of incredible experience helping bring brands into the digital world of marketing, which now is just the world of marketing.
Yes.
And in this world, you're really exploring literally new frontiers.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Roblox and why Roblox decided to come to Cannes this year.
Sure. So we've been on a really big growth trajectory at Roblox. We have 132 million daily active users now. They spend almost 3 hours a day with us.
That is crazy.
And so when you think about that, and usually on average, at least 12 minutes of that is with a brand. So we're at this really important intersection point of, wait a minute, you have seconds scrolling over here or other ways to engage on other platforms, but you have 12 minutes to bring someone in, introduce them to your brand, and what does that look like? And so I think as a company at Roblox, like we're in an inflection point of educating marketers on don't miss out, because as you know well, Gen Z, Gen Alpha behave completely differently than anyone we've communicated with before, and so understanding that is really essential for the future.
Okay, so just for the uninitiated, instead of scrolling, like what exactly is their finger and eye behavior when they're on Roblox?
Sure. Well, the core of Roblox starts with identity. So you come in and you really get to decide how you want to present yourself to the world. So what you want to be dressed at, how you want to look at. You usually come in, it's a co-experience platform. So you're coming in with friends. You're creating together, you're participating together. There's really nothing passive about it. And so that participation economy becomes really interesting.
And self-expression. So I could look
All
like
self-expression.
myself here in an avatar form, or I could be purple. Like you can be whoever you want to be.
I have hot pink hair in Roblox.
There you go. Is that your alter ego?
Yes. And they change all the time, right? 18 times a day they're changing, different outfits, different things. We've talked a lot about sports and fandom this week, World Cup, the Knicks, so many things like that. And we see such tight connection with sports fans on Roblox.
Right.
70% of our Gen Z audience are sports fans. 67% of them like to dress in apparel and gear from their teams. And then also after experiencing their team, the league on Roblox, want to go see an event in real life. So you start to see this Gen Z, Gen Alpha moving from virtual to physical and back. And it's really been an interesting extension of bring fans in early and extend that whole season and community.
Yeah, our big key theme this week at Vayner, and maybe we'll see if you're up for a piece of content, is around the barbell of relevance in 2026 and the IRL, like what we're doing right now, mattering more than ever. The football games, the Knicks, the being on the Croisette. In the same time, like we are living in a digital first reality where 132 million people a day are spending 3 hours on your platform. So both of these things can be true, and the brands who understand how to invest in both are really the ones who are winning. So let's talk about that. Who are some of the brands that you think are leaning into this considerable behavior shift and finding success on Roblox?
Sure. So I talk a lot about how I think communities are becoming the new campaigns on Roblox, and the brands that are doing it well are taking the time to understand, wait, who are these people, right? This is an incremental reach play for most brands, right? You know, over 60% of our users aren't on Instagram. 40% aren't on TikTok.
60% of your users are not on Instagram.
Yes.
Fascinating.
So there's this real incremental reach.
I thought everyone was on Instagram.
There's this true incremental mass reach of understanding why are they coming here and what are they doing, and then how do you authentically as a brand interact. If we were having this conversation 2 years ago, Avery, we'd be talking about building an immersive experience and making sure your brand had an always on persistent space on Roblox. And for some brands, particularly brands with great IP, that's still a winning strategy. But over the past 18 months, we've really tried to give lots of brands different entry points, right? Whether it's Manchester United releasing their kit to our marketplace so all of their fans can wear their uniforms, or it's Elf, right, bringing their entrepreneurial spirit and launching new products, or it's Fenty crowdsourcing from our community what they would then like to have sold at Sephora. And so I think the brands that are doing it well, yes, they're doing brand awareness and running ads all the time, but they're also leaning into what can they learn from the community, how can the community help them.
And you talked a little bit about the brand experience on Roblox and the fact that there are flexible options for brands. So you can do something that's like a virtual billboard or whole world or community investment. What do you think are the differences for those that feel culturally relevant and really resonate with your community on Roblox, and those that are kind of like, meh? Because I think that the Roblox community is also hyper transparent.
Yes.
And open to share their feedback.
Yes. So, Roblox is built on creators. And I think as we think about our audience, our community, everything really needs to be, I always say, a win-win-win, right? So it needs to work for the brand, but it needs to be additive to our users, and then ultimately a really positive thing for the creators. And so I think the brands that have spent time, again, understanding how that creator ecosystem on Roblox works, what are different ways they can collaborate together, understanding what makes certain games and experiences on Roblox successful, has then allowed brands to authentically figure out where and how to plug in. One of my favorite examples is actually H&R Block.
Shout out.
One of our mutually favorite partners. And I think I love sharing this story because oftentimes people say, oh, I get sports are on Roblox and entertainment's on Roblox, and they are, and we love them. But guess what? Gen Z also needs to do their taxes, right? And they need to be educated on financial literacy, and they need to be able to early on.
And they're very interested in financial literacy.
Very interested in it. Find a brand that gets them, that meets them where they are, and can teach, train them, and pull them into that process. And so I think brands that really think about where is that overlap and how do I need to change my messaging to bring in my customers of the future are the ones that are winning.
Amazing. Okay, so AI has dominated so many conversations at Cannes this year, and I actually think Roblox has some of the most advanced generative AI that's available for consumers and has for quite some time. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Very exciting space for us. Still catching up in terms of how we're using it in advertising, but I think the magic is, and where I would predict we're talking more about in the next few months and years, is the distance from I wake up in the morning or I have an awesome idea in the shower, like my dream, to all of a sudden it's live in a 3D immersive experience, ad, whatever that looks like, is getting so short. And the tools are so intuitive that my 7-year-old can open up Roblox Studio and create a roller coaster with cat robots jumping off buildings in the matter of his 30 minutes. And so you just think about how can marketers use that to be more culturally relevant? How can you move really quickly as this crew picks up on something or you want to be relevant with the community?
We've come a long way since Etch-a-Sketch and crayons. Now they can build whole roller coasters that look amazing. Just because the tool set has changed.
Yes.
And last but not least, I think you brought up a really good point around the fact that Roblox is built on creators. Many times when brands think about creators, they think about a face-to-camera content creator. There are so many different flavors and varieties of creators. I've been lucky enough to go to RDC and see the investment that you all put in your creators. How do you all think about on the Roblox side?
Great tee up. The word creator means so many different things. On the Roblox side, we have a few flavors of that. It's mainly developers, right? So a very diverse set of people across the world that are building experiences on Roblox. We also have video influencers, right? We have major Roblox gamers that like to stream their content.
Yep.
I mean, we send billions of views to other platforms every day watching people play Roblox. But I think it's a really unique creator crew. I mean, oftentimes they're building these games in their basements and their understanding of things. It's just a very different subset of the creators.
Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us on Marketing for the Now, taking a few minutes out of your
Yes.
can. I feel like I learned a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to Marketing for the Now. I'm sitting here with Ginny Ziegler from Pearson. Ginny, how has your can been so far?
It has been stimulating. It has been exciting, and it's been so hot.
It sure has. I think the theme of Cannes 2026 is the heat, whether that is heat and interesting ideas or physical heat. Apparently there's a heat wave going on in France that's reaching record temperatures.
Yeah, they closed the schools in Paris, so.
Oh my gosh. Well, we've got our fans blowing here at Shea Vayner. Ginny, talk to me a little bit about how long you've been coming to Cannes Lion. You're a renowned award-winning chief marketing officer, and how you've seen it evolve over the years.
I don't know if I've learned something I didn't know. I've heard things that have validated some of the kind of ideas and opinions we have at Pearson. One of the common themes I'm hearing in the various panels that I've been on is, of course, the discussion around AI and creative and the human role in all of that. And we had a great discussion on Monday, and we were talking a lot about soul and the importance of not losing soul and the humanity in the work that we do. I mean, yes, AI can make us more efficient. Yes, it can, up the performance level, but making sure that the human being is integrated into the workflow in the right places so that the humans can do what humans uniquely can do, critical thinking, judgment, and that spark of creativity, I think, is so important. So making sure there's still soul in the work.
Yeah, and at Pearson, for the uninitiated, tell us a little bit about what Pearson does, which is such an important company for literally helping drive education around the world.
Yeah, so Pearson is more than 180 years old. It's had
180.
Yeah. And we've had lots of different metamorphoses over that 180 years, as you can imagine. I think more recently, we have been known as a publishing company, but we changed course about 10 years ago, I would say, to really focus on learning. So now we are the world's leading learning company. We cover everything from K to Grey, so K through 12, vocational, higher education, and then the workplace. And essentially what we do is we provide learning courseware, we do assessments, and we do credentials. And that's essentially what we do at every phase in that learning journey.
So whether you are a kid or you're a lifelong learner, Pearson has something for you. And I'm sure AI has really reshaped the way that your company is bringing these tailored solutions to market. How are you all thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, we were one of the first in our category to start using AI within what we take to market. And so for more than 3 years now, we have been using AI with our higher education students, for example. And we've learned a lot, we've got a lot of data now to show, where should we be using AI? And so, for example, in the US, we serve about 10 million students, of which about 2 million for 3 years have been using integrated AI within the courseware, so study tools, help with homework, that kind of thing. But the key thing about how we use AI, because we're a learning company, is we integrate it with learning science, with neural cognitive science. And so what we're not doing is giving you a quick teleportation to the answer in your homework tool, for example. We know that there is a difference between not knowing something and knowing something, and that struggle in between is called learning. And you have to have that struggle in order to build the neuroplasticity of your brain, just like you have to do the same thing in the gym, when you're lifting weights. So we ensure that we're building learning science techniques in how we use AI. And what we found through more than 80 million interactions is that students who are using the AI tools are 23 times more engaged than their peers who are not, which is amazing.
That makes sense to me, though. The hot topic right now, I just had a little baby, is all of these alpha school. Thank you. Is like alpha school, and how kids who are using some of these very AI advanced programs are testing way above kids who are not. Of course, there's many factors that go into that, but it is such a hot topic right now. I'm also curious because Pearson has invested and really led the way in lifelong learning. Can you talk to us about what that means? And how that's sort of reshaping the careers and workplace? That's another huge topic these days.
Yeah, we talk a lot about learning to learn, and the fact that actually now, more than ever, learning is the skill. If you can get better at learning, and again, train your brain to continuously learn, then you can be much more agile, much more resilient, much more adaptable. And we don't know what's around the corner, honestly, in 2 years' time. And right now it's Gen AI, it's agentic, but, quantum is here already, so you need to get better at learning. That's the first thing. And so training your brain to learn how to learn. The other thing is we don't believe that the traditional sort of conveyor belt of learning is the way that most people learn. You have to cater to, how does Avery learn? Are you more of a video and audio learner, or do you prefer to write things down? Are you more math-oriented? Are you more humanities-oriented? So building a personalized path is really important. And, careers are not ladders anymore. They're not straight ladders. They are jungle gyms. And so how do you create an environment where you give people the opportunity to stretch themselves and move maybe diagonally, laterally, not always straight up? And what's great about that is you never know where that's going to take you. I know my career was like that. I started my career as a soprano in Barcelona. And now I'm a chief marketing officer at Pearson in San Francisco. So it was definitely not a straight line.
That is definitely a jungle gym. Let's get back to your 20 years that you haven't been at Cannes. What brought you to Cannes for the first time?
Well, we have...
Were you singing?
No, only at nighttime. We have partnered with Vayner to produce our very first ad campaign in more than 5 years. We relaunched the Pearson brand last year, and this year we partnered with VaynerMedia to help us activate it in a really special way, using AI as a tool. But the focus of the ads is AI is helping the humans in the creative tell their story with more clarity. So essentially what we did was we got real learners. We call them the Pearson graduates, but they're graduates from everything from the GED to vocational training in nursing to our virtual school, which is K through 12, where we serve more than 100,000 students in the US, called Connections Academy. And we had them meet their younger selves through AI avatars that had been age regressed. And they hadn't seen them before they came onto a dark stage at the theater that we were filming in. And it was just so wonderful to capture the reactions of the older learners meeting their younger selves. And that we'd ask them to write a letter to their younger selves to inspire them and motivate them to keep going. And it was just very, very moving to see their reaction. And none of it was scripted. It was all written and shared by real learners.
What an absolutely beautiful piece. We're going to have to link that in the comments so people can check it out. The reactions were just priceless.
They were amazing. First of all, they couldn't believe how like themselves the avatars were. And they, oh my gosh, she's even got my bangs, one of them said. But also just having a conversation about how hard, because in each one of these stories, something challenging had happened in each of our learners' lives. And the one thing that is so beautiful about Pearson is we are changing lives every single day. Our purpose is to help people realize the lives they imagine through learning. And each one of these students, these learners, had realized a completely different life that had changed the trajectory of not just their life, but their family's life. And that, even on a bad day, and you wake up on a bad day, you might have helped somebody learn how to read somewhere in the world, So it's amazing to work for a company with such a great mission.
Education is such a gift that is truly transformative in so many ways. Yeah. I am also curious about, we talked a little bit about like lifelong learners. What are some of the things that you're learning about these days, Ginny?
Two things. So I came to Pearson from professional services where I had been for 17 years. And so coming from that world into the world of learning, that was a huge learning curve, right? First of all, you're learning a new company, building your network and understanding, the state of play, I guess, within the company. But secondly, it's I learn something new every day about Pearson. For example, I didn't know that we did the driver's test in the UK. I'm like, who knew? Oh, and we do a bricklaying course as well. We do all the GCSEs, we do the GEDs, we do the BTECs. I'm like, wow, so much to learn, right? So that's one of the big things. I think the second big thing, and this is something that certainly the Vayner team has been really instrumental in supporting us here, is the whole shift with agentic and Gen AI and AEO. And, what I have done is I've really taken advantage of the partners that we have and the deep expertise that each of you in your functional areas can bring to the table to help me train my team and me. Because you have to start from the top. You have to model it yourself. You can't ask your team to be using AI on a day-to-day basis if you yourself haven't even laid hands on it, know? So that has been great. I think back to a year ago, and I had loads of people from the Vayner team come in and kind of coach my team, and I think we've made a lot of progress since then. But that was the foundation of it. Everyone's been to a training course and then 2 days later you've forgotten 70% of what you learned. If you're not applying and you're not practicing all the time, day to day, in the flow of your work or your discipline, whatever it is, it's not going to stick. It's like Teflon, right? It just flows away if you're not actually applying it.
You have to build the muscle of learning.
Exactly. Get back to the gym analogy. Yes.
Exactly. And I think that's exactly right. Sometimes actually when I'm learning something new, I'm almost exhausted from it, at the end of the day, because you're probably when you were absorbing a whole new industry. You said you were at your previous company for a decade and a half.
Right.
Learning a whole new industry is
Totally.
There's so much to learn, especially with a 180-year-old company.
Listen, your brain is 3 pounds. There's a lot of muscle in that brain. So yes, you're exhausted when you work it out.
That's amazing. Okay, so who's the most fascinating person that you have met this year at Cannes Lion 2026? Besides me.
Well, you, of course, Avery. Oh, I have met so many amazing people while I have been here. I think one of the people who I love, mutual friend Avery, is Nadine Dietz.
Oh, wonderful.
Who her company has just merged with another company. I can't recall the name of it. Her
Hive Group. Virtuosi Leap and Hive Group.
Yes, so she's Virtuosi Leap, and she has built the most incredible community of chief marketing officers and creatives, etc. And it's just such a pleasure and a joy to be able to take the time. We spent half a day there, right, on Sunday, to just talk to people, share, understand the lessons learned and the best practices. And I always feel that as we are a B2B to C company. There's a couple of areas where we're direct to consumer, but I always feel that companies like Pearson can learn so much, especially from our consumer colleagues. So I happen to sit next to a great lady from General Motors and a couple of folks from PepsiCo, and just learning what they're doing is so creative and it's so disruptive. And I think we can take some lessons from that and apply them maybe in a slightly different way to Pearson. But again, it's a real joy to spend time with folks like that.
What resonated with me about that day was that, it was focused, the morning portion, very much on learning. The way I learn is by writing. So there were pens, which was great, so I can remember things. But also the fact that in a world where we're doing so many things fully online, you talked about your 100% remote school. That is the reality that many people are living in. And it's so important to get that right, to get AI right, to get remote right.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, moments where you can convene in person are so special and almost more valuable. And understanding how to do both really well is like, that's the balance to find in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, even with our online schools, they are community-based. So although they're doing a lot of their teaching and their courseware, on a computer, they are actually, they interact a lot with their teachers. They do field trips.
Yeah.
They have community events. And so there's definitely, we know that part of the secret sauce is having that human connection.
That community and connection always matters,
Yep.
even in an AI first world. Ginny, thank you so much for taking the time. It was fascinating to have a conversation with you. You're my most fascinating person now. So I really
Avery.
appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
We're back on Marketing for the Now. It is the final day of the Cannes Lion Festival 2026, and I'm here with Logan Patterson from Slalom Consulting. How's it going, Logan?
It's going great. What a week. I mean, incredible energy. I know we're all exhausted. It's day 4. But so amazing. So many different people here. I mean, anybody you could imagine is here in the marketing and advertising space. So.
I think that's about right. Literally anyone that you might have worked with, seen in a past life, as a marketer, they're here on the Croisette. And you said it's your first time at Cannes Lion.
It's my first time. I don't know what I was expecting, but it blew me away. I mentioned to you as we were just preparing, we're a pretty big tech consulting firm, and so to see how this has transformed and how many of our partners have not just small activations but large scale activations, it's incredible.
Pretty considerable activations, and I saw you guys have a very cool partnership with Salesforce, and
Yep.
that's coming to life on the Croisette as well. Have you been spending a lot of time at the beach?
I've been on the beach bouncing around a lot. Salesforce is a large partner, but we also have partnerships like Adobe, Amazon, so I've been checking out the port and other
Cool.
places as well. So
What's your favorite activation that you've seen here at Cannes Lion?
I mean, I'm jealous that I don't have full access to it, but Sports Beach is incredible.
Really cool.
I'm just amazed at the culture that they can bring into that activation and just how many people it draws in, obviously.
They've done a fantastic job of integrating sport, culture, athletes, marketing in one place. I went to a cool boardroom event there, and it was like, there's Kevin Durant.
Yep.
That's just Cannes Lion. Have you had any bump-ins to some famous faces?
I don't know why, but Carmelo Anthony, I can't stop bumping into him.
Oh,
It's been
really?
multiple times.
You're best friends now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. I wish, but no, he's pretty incredible. And just learning about the business that he runs now.
Right.
Very culturally based and obviously very well skilled. So.
Okay, so tell me about one thing that you have learned this week that you didn't know before.
I think it's always tough, right? Because we all assume that we know it all,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then you come here and you're like, I don't know anything. And it's this bipolar of like, I know it all, I don't. And this week, I think what I've learned is nobody is doing everything perfectly right.
Of course.
And the most impactful thing this week has been getting people off the beach and into a coffee shop to just chat. The guard comes down and people just talk really real and say, I'm not doing that. I'm intimidated. How can I do that? And then that's where we can help.
I feel like those more casual moments are one of the reasons that Vayner continues to bring a big delegation to Cannes is, yes, of course, there's panels, there's podcasts, there's
Right.
talks, there's roundtables, but there's also just bumping into people. There's a new friend or a new conversation or just people being candid and also people wanting to do business here.
Absolutely. I've found that the access you get at this event is unlike any other. And I don't know if it's because of the location, everybody's just a little more relaxed, but it does feel like people are actually here to make connections and ask the hard questions of how do I do this in the coming year?
Okay, well, as the managing director at Slalom, how are you advising clients on how to structure their teams and, in this era of AI, how to get tech-enabled? That's exactly what y'all do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing because I feel like with AI, everybody jumped right out of the gates and said, hey, I can be anything I want right now. And so you saw engineers trying to be marketers trying to be engineers. And it's like we've come back around. And while I don't think marketers have always been too focused and too siloed and doing the one thing of I send the email or whatever that may be, I think there's a broadening but still a focus on, I can be a broader marketer. And I think that's really exciting is that, and how I advise my clients is you need to think about more durable teams, broader teams. And with AI, not how does a marketer and advertiser become an engineer, but how can you do more in the space to make sure that you are moving at the pace of culture. That's a really hard thing to do, but I do think that AI is helping us enable that.
And AI is probably a big part of what you are helping clients actually bring to life in their tech stack, oftentimes modernizing it. Where are you seeing most of your clients on this journey right now? Like they're obviously aware. Many of them have done a lot of pilots. Many of them have many enterprise licenses, sometimes through partners like yourselves.
Yeah.
But that implementation, like I don't think that there is a consistent application yet. How are you advising them to think about it?
I think that's the hardest thing. You mentioned POCs. Everybody out there has had shadow AI, just like shadow IT for years. And I think the real challenge now is that enterprise layer of orchestrating it all and understanding what are the right tools that everybody can drive adoption from, not piecemealing it or I have my own agent or my own AI platform. I heard somebody say yesterday, we're going from in AI single player mode to multiplayer mode, where you and I should be interacting with the same exact layer and intelligence. And I think that's going to change the game.
Yeah. Are you, within your own company and team, seeing a lot of agent creation, scaling, enterprise adoption?
Every single day. Every single day. I'm amazed at what our teams are doing, whether it's through delivery or helping our clients adopt it. Every single day I'm seeing something new, whether it's from a personal life story or in work. It's truly incredible to see what people are unlocking and the value that they can create.
Yesterday I was at a talk with a CMO of Meta, and people are always asking how are you creating agents for your personal life? And I want to hear that from you too. And he was talking about this whole home automation that he'd made for his security cameras and thermostats and all of that kind of thing. And he was talking about how it enabled him to be a better marketing leader because he can work with his product stakeholders. And when you see it yourself in a different application in a different capacity where it's lower stakes, then you just understand it better and you've gotten your hands dirty and in it. So you can be like, but what about this? But what about that? And how it had really driven a lot of credibility. And he had several examples of times that he had suggested things to the product team that they were ultimately able to implement that started with the learning that, came from his personal application. And then he talked about, we were like, how's it going right now? Like, what's your temperature in your house? And he's like, my housekeeper unplugged my computer. And we were just laughing because, even in this world of very AI first, if someone unplugs your server, then it's down for a bit. But I'd love to hear from you. How are you sort of building in the AI world in your personal life? And are you seeing it transition into your professional context as well?
Yeah, I'll take a simple example. Think about, our trip here, right? For me, I'm spending the weekend after this. And
smart man.
I'm using all of the AI tools to help me plan out where do I want to go, what do I want to do, what are the right cafes to stop at, what are the right, beach clubs to attend. If you take that, and that's a pretty normal use case, but now apply that to the business world of all of the travel and hospitality brands out there. How are you being visible, being cited throughout that journey where it's not a one-word search of, hey, I'm going to Nice this weekend. It is, I'm going to Nice, plan out my 3 days with my wife, here's my budget, all of that. How do you become relevant in that space? How do you make sure you're the brand being cited? And that's something that now you apply it to how we're advising our clients. That's not just SEO. That's not keyword packing like we saw in the early days of search. Mm-hmm. This is content. This is content supply chain. These are data schemas and structures. This is product information. It's really complex stuff. So one of the things we talked about earlier is brand relevance. Well, how do you become relevant in this space is different and becoming more complex, but I think it's really powerful because you can help guide from discovery all the way through to consideration and even purchase at this point.
I love that you just brought up content creation as a big part of that strategy. I think many times marketers, when they see an example like you're talking about with your planning your trip, they're like, how does my hotel, how does my car rental company, how does my credit card play a part in this journey? And the reality is that social content creation has such a big role to play in that.
Huge.
Of course, you still need to have long form articles, you need to have press, there's a lot of things you can do strategically, but one big lever we've seen is, and I see this, our friends at YouTube right here, content creation on YouTube feeds right into Google's model in a way that's incredibly powerful and it's incredibly obvious, yet it is very seldom adopted as of 2026. So I hope in Cannes 2027, we see more brands, wrapping their heads around that.
Absolutely. I mean, Reddit and YouTube are the two largest data training for most of the LLMs out there today. And so, yes, YouTube is important. Every channel is important. And I heard somebody say the other day that there are a lot of creators here this week.
Yeah.
In the future, everyone is a creator. You and I are creators, but everyone who has any type of impact, influence, whether it's your family or a broader team, you are a creator. And so how do you make sure that your brand is in those spaces and becoming a part of that conversation?
I want to pull on one thread that you mentioned. You talked about data schemas. Tell me, what does that mean and how do marketers actually start on the journey to building those to influence their AEO?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, let's just take product information, right? If all of your product information and you have
Color,
your
SKU,
own
et
channel,
cetera.
all of that is structured differently and exposed differently on your own website, maybe other third-party channels where you sell through, that all drives a fractured authority signal. And I'm not going to get into the technical details because that'll bore the audience for this. But if you can imagine, if your wonderful dress today is depicted.
This is multicolored, so it could be orange, it could be brown, it could be patterned, yes.
If all of that is different and exposed differently, well, then it's less likely to show up when somebody's looking for a wardrobe.
Yes.
And so it's simply, the more structured you can get it, the easier that is for an LLM to extract that information.
Does the retailer or manufacturer set that structure, or is there like a best practice structure they should use?
It's an interesting, it's a great question because most retailers have different demands on their
That's
partners.
what I would think, yeah.
And so there's a real conversation that we're at the intersection of how do you structure that together and work to have one consistent description or product information set.
AI can actually help with that too,
Absolutely.
because once you train it on, hey, this is how I want to have this structure, these are the colors I want to show up with, these are the descriptions I want, it can help to do that identification. I know that's a journey that we're on for many of our clients, but even like showing AI pictures of something and being like, that's right, nope, you got that one wrong. That's a big investment of time to make sure that the machine can then run in a deterministic fashion.
Well, and you're bringing up something that's just brings me around to how we advise clients is that the biggest, I think, fear in the system right now is that AI is going to replace every human out there. What you just highlighted is the importance of humans in the loop, or humans still retaining some of that creativity. I've heard a lot about, the speed of culture this week, creativity. I've been talking about with AI this creativity renaissance that we're going to go through, which is to break through all of the AI slop, all of the content scale that we're seeing. It's going to take real taste.
Ideas. Yeah, and as a person who spent a lot of time in the world of tech and digital, is there anything creatively inspiring you've seen this week at Cannes Lion?
I think some of the, it's odd talking as a technology, data, and AI advisor, but I also advise on the broader space of marketing and advertising. And just some of the simple things, right? The artists that were a part of all of these beach activations, whether it was at Salesforce, Port, or otherwise, having live artists there, very human interactions. And I think this entire event has highlighted how much we are craving human connection. And so while digital may be the road, the destination is analog. And every brand here is recognizing you have to do both, right? We all planned, we all scheduled everything digitally. We showed up analog, and that's where the real conversation happened, and that's where the real work gets done.
It's funny you mentioned that because our theme of the week has been the barbell of relevance, which is in that we are living in this digital first reality. And that's, without question true. That's, how people are researching. That's how we communicate in so many different forms and fashions. That's how people discover products, et cetera, et cetera. Like, we live in a digital first world, but at the same time, the reason all of these enterprise marketers and business leaders and Oprah are coming to Cannes Lion is that people are craving in-person connection. It's more important than ever. And getting both sides of that relevance barbell right is a big opportunity for brands. Because if you focus only on one,
that's right.
Or getting stuck in the middle can be tricky as well. So I love that you came to the same conclusion. Pleasure to chat with you, Logan. And thanks again for dropping by Shea Vayner.
Thanks so much, Avery. Appreciate it.
All right, it is the final day of Cannes Lion, and I'm lucky enough to be sitting here with Laura Ness-Owen, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at Bobcat, everyone's favorite construction company.
That's right.
I can just picture the logo in my head. Laura, how has your Cannes Lion been so far?
Oh, it has been exceptional. It's hot. It's definitely hot here, but it has been great. There are so many, great discussions. This is where obviously the center of creativity is, and also just the center of all the debate and discussion about what's to happen in the days ahead in marketing. So it's a great place to be, and lots of great people to spend our time with.
What is one thing that you learned this week that you didn't know before you got to Cannes?
In short, there was a coach who was speaking on the stage at Sport Beach, and he said, you guys all sit in 20 to 30 minute staff meetings every week, and I have 20 seconds to get my team back in the game, winning the game. And so there was something to be said there about the speed of work, and that we have an opportunity to, just remind ourselves that teams work well together when they know what they're doing, where they're going, and get the good reminders to go forward.
That is a really good push and indicator. One thing that my boss Gary is known for doing is very quick meetings that can be like 5 minutes, 7 minutes, never 30.
Yes.
30 would be like, wow, we could rewrite our entire company playbook in 30 minutes.
Exactly.
And a lot of people are like, almost will sometimes feel like it's rude to suggest like, oh, okay, we'll talk for 10 minutes or send you a calendar invite for that. But time management is such an incredible skill for executives, and being able to be effective with your time.
Yep.
Because there's so many just pleasantries that just take 9 minutes.
Absolutely.
Pleasantries are nice. Being pleasant is nice. But if you can find a way to be pleasant and fast, why not?
That's right. Our business moves fast. This world moves fast. We need to be able to move fast with all of that and keep things going. And I heard here a couple days ago that our strategies need to be reactionary. They need to be able to see what's going on, see what customers are saying, and respond to that well. And that does not take hours of discussion.
No, it doesn't. So talk to us a little bit about like what brings you to Cannes Lion and how you're thinking about applying some of this inspiration and learnings to your business day to day.
Absolutely. So I started coming to Cannes Lions a couple years ago, and what I was so impressed with was so much of the discussion about where the world is going, and how, certainly 2 years ago it was about this advent of AI, what was it and how it was going to work. And then last year we talked an awful lot about the efficiency factor, but it's always thinking further ahead. So I think that what we started doing in our business a couple years ago is reality of what we're dealing with in today's culture. So what I love is that it's so forward thinking. It's predicting what things are going to look like, and it's really setting the tone for how culture is going to both how it's going to operate and how it's going to guide our industry to operate. So I love the discussions. I think everything eventually moves from B2C to B2B. So for me and the B2B world, it gives me a bit of a jump start.
Have you noticed a lot of the world, a lot of the theme this year is focused on creators? Mm-hmm. And how do you think about creators in a business like yours? Because you just talked about, Bobcat is purely B2B, right?
Yep.
So how do you think creators make sense for your brand, or do they?
Oh, they absolutely do. We have been so fortunate for so many years, and I guess I could say we're B2B2C, if you will, because we are trying to drive our customers into our dealerships. And we've been so fortunate for years and years. We've had magazines and that have told our customer stories. We were doing that 10, 15 years ago because we wanted to help our customers learn other ways of operating their equipment. You can take one of our loaders and you can operate it in the wintertime moving snow. And
what is a loader for the uninitiated?
Yep. So a skid steer loader. It's kind of a little 4-wheeled or 2-tracked machine that you see all over the city. They're small, they're agile, they get into all these little spaces. They're out clearing snow all the time in all the cities. And they're out doing landscaping work and demolition work on construction sites. So the beauty
hauling, do they have that like little scooping thing?
They sure do. Yep, digging holes. Those are excavators, and the loaders do that too. So we've got a whole lineup of that. We've got mowers, we've got tractors, we've got all the.
I know what a mower is, but a loader I'm gonna have to Google later.
But we were telling our stories because we knew that if a customer bought a machine, he could do a lot of different things with that machine if he had understanding of how others were using it. So that really came to life eventually in video and eventually in social media. So the creators that we have today, many of them are just customers who have been telling their stories, and some we definitely work with directly to say, you've got a great story, you've got a great following, we want to boost your story.
Right.
But you can go out online every day and you'll see people telling stories about their love for Bobcat and how it's helping them to do their jobs better and quicker and change the way they live their lives.
I can imagine, especially with entrepreneurs. I mean, it's inherently a product that like can do a lot of cool things. That you're like, wow, you could excavate that, you could clear snow, you could demolition content has to absolutely crush it.
Yeah.
So I can imagine a lot of these entrepreneurs would be proud to show how they're using their equipment in new and unique ways.
In fact, we have a campaign running right now called Watch Me, and the whole idea is that, you know, you tell me that I can't move that dirt pile, you tell me that I can't dig a swimming pool in my backyard with an excavator and a loader, watch me, I can do it. Bobcat empowers me to do whatever I want to do.
That's fascinating. Are some of them like do-it-yourself or home people, or these are exclusively professionals?
Nope, absolutely. Yep, I've operated our equipment, not very well, but I can operate our equipment. I've cleared snow. I've done different work in my backyard. We call them the weekend warriors. So you could be a weekend warrior and go rent a product for the
trust me,
weekend.
I am. I do home projects every weekend.
I love it. So go rent a Bobcat loader and see what it can do to help you out in the backyard. Or, you know, we've got utility vehicles, we've got the tool cats, we've got all sorts of fun things. We primarily work with contractors, mid and large size contractors, but we were built on the average Joe being able to go out and build a business with our product.
And are they also available for rent or pure? They
Absolutely.
are available for rent.
Yep.
Okay, interesting.
Yep, most of our dealers rent the equipment, as well as we partner with Sunbelt and Herc and United Rentals as well.
I think I've seen those at Home Depot.
I bet you have. Yep.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about, as a heritage brand, how many years old is Bobcat?
Almost 70.
70. Okay,
Yes.
how do you think about being relevant for the next generation of weekend warriors?
Yep, that's
And contractors.
Yes, that's a great question. You know, we started the industry. We were the first to come to market with innovative ideas to help people do their jobs. Little known, well, actually a well-known story, but we were started because a turkey farmer had a need, and a couple gentlemen in the upper Midwest said, we can help you. And they built a product, and we have continued to operate like that. So a lot of it is saying we were the first innovators, and we continue to innovate. We continue to let customers' voices into our meeting rooms, into our boardrooms, into our product development. And so we stay relevant by ensuring that we are meeting our customers' needs and we are telling their stories, because that's the most important stories we have to tell.
Your job seems very interesting in that you are hearing these customer stories, helping these contractors, but at the same time, you're in the south of France, being surrounded by a lot of consumer brands who oftentimes have like a different objective than you are. It could be like fast food or auto or financial services or something like that. Your business is a little bit different. How do you find that intersection of things that you want to take and maybe things that you're like, I'm not taking that with me?
Well, we're all consumers, period, right? We all shop on Amazon. We all go to Target. We all go to, you know, whatever restaurant, KFC. We go to all these different restaurants. So the experience that we have with those restaurants sets the experience expectations for everything else that we do. So I firmly believe that people don't go to Amazon.com and have this great seamless experience, and then they go to Bobcat.com and say, it's okay. I don't expect it of them. So I take away how experience is being shaped and how messaging is being shaped. And there are definitely things that, like, yeah, that's B2C, that is definitely not my area, but there are definite takeaways because we're all consumers today, and we all are buying goods and researching, and if we can learn from each other, all the better.
And I'm sure you have a lot to share on the flip side of it too. You and I were lucky enough to be at an event on, it was Sunday. And, you know, hearing all those different perspectives was something that really, I think, kicked off the week in a strong way for different legacy brands, different startup brands, B2B, B2C, all kind of coming together to share things. And there's more alike than different.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Laura, what or who is the most interesting person or talk that you've heard so far at Cannes this year?
Oh, wow. Okay, so I've heard will.i.am several times.
He's out there.
He is. He's definitely out there. But what he talked about yesterday, relative to, or a couple days ago at a conference, but at one of the sessions, what he talked about was really interesting to me, because he said he is a teacher at a university in California, and he wants to prepare that next generation to be able to run hand in hand with their agents. So it was about not just, you know, having an individual graduate with a certificate, but them building an agent so that they could train the agent all through their tenure in school and come out with the human and the agent together, which is, I think, so much of what we're talking about is you can't replace the human spirit, you can't replace empathy, but if you can build it alongside and you can have that perfect duo when they come out and they are both certified to go into the workforce, that's what our future looks like, and it's a better way than than this continual argument of one or the other. So it was
Better together.
Yeah, and it was a great insight that I had not taken away from him in the past.
Fantastic. I mean, who knew that Will.i.am is also a teacher? Talk about a multi-hyphenate. He's a musician, he's an entrepreneur, he's an investor, and now he's a teacher. And he always has great nuggets to take away.
Yeah.
Laura, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us on Marketing for the Now. And it's been a pleasure to have you.
Great. Thanks so much.
All right, I feel like I'm sitting with a celebrity right now. I'm sitting with Leah Haberman. She is the author of an incredibly iconic newsletter that I'm a huge fan of, in case you missed it, and a creator economy expert. Leah, thank you for joining us today in Marketing for the Now.
Thank you for having me.
How's your Cannes Lion been so far?
It's amazing. It's hot. I'm tired, but the opportunities have been insane.
You're wearing sneakers. That means you're a very smart woman, because there's a lot of steps that happened this week.
I went sneaker shopping before I came, so I have 3 new pairs of different types of Adidas, like Adidas Tokyo, Adidas Stan Smith, all the Adidas that I could pack in my bag.
That's your shoe of choice.
Yes.
Love that.
Call me Adidas.
Adidas, she's available. So I just asked you, actually, if you consider yourself a creator, because you have an incredibly popular newsletter.
Yeah.
You said you're more of a creator economy expert, which means you are paying very close attention to what is happening this week at Cannes Lion, which is an influx of creator. Many people are calling this the Creator Can. What do you think is bringing these creators to Cannes Lion?
I think a lot of us that didn't come last year have FOMO or had FOMO, and we saw everybody coming. We saw the conversations, the opportunities. And so I think there really was a sense, if you didn't go to Cannes last year, that this was the year you had to be there. Every platform is activating. Meta, TikTok, Pinterest, Snapchat, like Reddit, every single platform is here. All of your creator peers, your creator expert peers. It was just it was almost like the entire industry picked up from the US and just kind of plopped itself over in Cannes. So it's been really incredible. I think it's just, there was a sense that this was the one you couldn't miss.
Interesting. And I know that the platforms and oftentimes tech companies bring out a lot of the creators as well to speak on their behalf. But also a lot of creators self-fund their trips. How are you seeing creators get to Cannes? Are they self-funding? Are they being sponsored? Are they doing speaking engagements?
That is a really good question. I'm glad you asked, because last year the trend was the platforms brought creators. This year, I don't know if it's a budget thing, recession indicator, but most of the platforms and brands did not bring creators. They activated people on the ground. So I talked to a lot of different creator lead at different companies, like major tech companies, asking them, who are you bringing? Some of them brought 1 or 2 celebrities, like Alondria was brought out here. But most of I would say the micro influencers made their way here themselves. They are now being activated on the ground. So all of these companies are reaching out. They're hiring them for, sponsorships, amplification, attendance at events or whatever. But the creators paid to get themselves here, which is a big difference. Last year, almost everybody was brought out. This year, people are getting themselves here and then getting hired on the ground.
One thing that I noticed a lot this year was we saw a number of consumer brands also activating. The tech brands absolutely activate on the ground, but also consumer brands hosting influencer dinners, creator events, creator roundtables, so that they could almost do a bit of a focus group. Is that a trend you saw as well?
Yes. I actually lost invitations. I just noticed this morning that I had an invitation to a Balenciaga something last night, and I missed that email.
Darn it.
Oh my God, whatever, missed it. But yeah, definitely. I think, honestly, I'm going to be writing a newsletter about Cannes and I think the World Cup are kind of rewriting the creator playbook in how brands and platforms are activating creators, bringing creators with them, incorporating them not just as token kind of panelists or VIP guests, but they are integrated in every part of their presence here at Cannes. It's really interesting.
Can you give me an example of exactly what that integration looks like?
Creators are inviting other creators. They're kind of helping manage the guest list. They are hosting
as hosts. Yeah.
As hosts, yes. They're they're hosting. They're hosting the party. They're working almost as social manager. I know some of the creators are working not just as creators for stuff that they're going to post on their channels, but they're also creating content, almost like an in-house creator for the brands that are here. So I've just found it really interesting, all of the ways that, brands and platforms are trying to activate creators. menu items like cocktails named after creators. Like it's just incorporated or integrated at kind of like every level of the event.
That's amazing. Yeah, I saw a lot of the creator cocktail menus, the creators hosting things. We did something with Ciroc that had a similar theme where there's creators as the host at an incredible chateau. If you have time to drop by today, wow, it's amazing.
I also heard the see, that's the thing. There are like also little creator pockets up in the hills.
Yes.
So I think I know Stan for Creators, they've got like a little house up there. I don't even think that John and JT, who are running the Stan house, I've never even seen them on the Croisette. I think they've pretty much been up at that house. And then I just see every day like amazing photos coming out of that house of like the parties they're having, the panels. And so that's kind of interesting where it's like, that's not even a brand activation. They have sponsors, but like essentially they're kind of hosting their own creator activation for other creators.
I know that they've been on the Croisette because I've seen them here a couple of times.
Okay. I just haven't run into them. I feel like I've run into every single other person here at Cannes, just not them.
Okay, and what's your strategy for running into people at Cannes? Is it you just bump into them?
There is no strategy. I was walking from Pinterest to an Adobe dinner last night. I met Andrea Casanova, Lisette, Amber Vensbox, the co-founder of LTK. Lindsay Gamble, who writes an amazing newsletter as well and works at IZEA. It was just like every block there was somebody. So it is taking a really long time to get from one place to another because you got to stop, chat, catch up, you know.
You've got to budget your time when you're walking in the Croisette,
Yes.
like double to triple the walking time. Also because there's just a lot of foot traffic and a lot of car traffic this week.
Yes. Tourists, people walking, shopping.
Okay, so you just mentioned some of the content that you're seeing come out of the Stan House. How are you thinking about organic social as an amplification for people who are not lucky enough to be with us in the south of France? Because yes, of course, there are these wonderful parties, and we think about this a lot at Vayner. Like, yeah, every night we'll have a couple hundred people here, but a couple million people are going to see what we're doing.
Yes, and what you don't want it to be is kind of like a travel diary or a vlog about the amazing time you had in Cannes. I think that works for stories. I think that works for people's personal Instagrams. But in terms of the LinkedIn posts, I think in terms of like the brand channels, you want to be sharing that experience. So it's really not just about, you know, the activation on the ground or the creators on the ground. Like you said, you've got to be thinking about the millions of people this is being amplified to. And sure, you know, you want it to be a little aspirational, but like you also have to provide some value and knowledge and kind of share that information with people at home. Because otherwise, I think they're just going to tune it out. Like if it's just based on pure FOMO and jealousy, like what value is there to anybody at home?
Absolutely. I mean, as a B2B business, like, of course, there is a little bit of rosé involved here, but that should not be the primary thing that is featured on our channels. It should be incredible conversations and insights and key takeaways and fun moments too. Last night we had a Wyclef performing and Flava Flav came on stage, and you know that was just like an awesome moment. That something like that, of course, does really well.
Yes, behind the scenes, behind the rope kind of thing, pull back the curtain. Like, yeah, people love that, but I think it's like you want people at home to feel like you're bringing them along rather than just kind of like shoving the rosé or the spritz in their face. I've been drinking a lot of spritz, but yeah, kind of shoving that in their faces.
My social team knows where we try to, you know, reduce the amount of content captured on the rosé and spritzes, keep it very informational, very action, and very interesting too, because ultimately that's the relevance barometer that we're dealing with. Is if it's not interesting to people, then it won't perform well.
Yes. I've been taking photos of for stories, photos of my breakfast and like all the little bakery trips that I'm doing. So I know that the people who want to see sort of more of the personal lifestyle side are going to see all of that in my stories, all the croissants, the butter, the bread.
I'm really curious for your perspective. We talked a little bit about creators, but why do you think brands make the trip and effort and the expense and the time expense of coming out? Why do you think that this is such an important place for brand leaders to be?
So it's interesting that you say that because I think there's two tracks here that I've seen. There's kind of more of the traditional marketing advertising track of maybe more legacy brands, for example, that have been coming forever.
The Fortune 500s who send the delegations and get the cabanas.
Exactly. And there's a lot of lore and prestige to being at Cannes, I think especially for those brands. And then you've got the creator economy track, which I feel like does not necessarily kind of understand the lore or prestige of this. They maybe haven't even been to the Palais. They're really coming because it's the place to be. It's where all the creators are. I think both sides feed off each other, or actually all three sides, the platforms, the brands, and the creators. It's like everybody wants to be where the attention is, where everyone else is. And I think Cannes is that. It's also one in a number of events and conferences at this point, whether it's the World Cup, whether it's the Olympics, whether it's Ad Week, whether it's everything's blending and merging together, and you can no longer tell what is a consumer event, what's a creator event, what is a tech event, what is a marketing event. You're starting to see athletes, creators, actors, and musicians and marketers all blend together in all of these places.
It's funny that you mentioned that. At Vayner, we call it CATE, creators, affiliates, influencers, and talents, because we have one team who manages that. We used to have sort of different teams who managed those relationships, and we realized exactly what you said. It's very integrated, and someone could be more of a talent, but then and also I think one key theme that we hear from these folks across different dimensions is most of them identify as entrepreneurs. Yes, they might be an influencer, they might be an athlete, they might be more celebrity talent, but they're all like, I'm an entrepreneur. And one thing we're hearing from a lot of them is they don't just want a fee, they want to have their own business. They're seeing how to build these businesses too. And in speaking with a lot of them, they're like, wait, and then why would they pay so much for this? And they're like, can't you just like do that really quickly? And you're like, yeah, that's the legacy brand side wants to learn from the startup side, and the startup side wants to learn from the big brand side. And oftentimes like that dialogue and discussion can be really interesting and beneficial to both parties.
Can we just go back to the acronym? Because what is it like Vayner? Who comes up with these? You guys have the best acronyms. Like I've talked to other people on the team and I'm just like, wait, I'm going to use that term.
A lot of them come from Gary.
Okay.
Gary is an acronym master, and I think ultimately it comes from Gary's an incredible brand builder. He understands that like packaging is everything, and we try to package things in different ways. Like where we're sitting right now is Shea Vayner, which is our franchise. We have Marketing for the Now, which is another franchise. If there is something we could give a name, we give it a name.
You have one of the best names that everybody needs to pay attention to is comments as creative. So we all know how much more important comments are in social content now. Like the post is kind of like not as important. It's secondary to the conversation that happens below. And I was talking to somebody at Vayner, this person, Sam, and she was telling me about comments as creative. And I was like, brilliant. I actually ended up doing a whole newsletter about comments as creative. So kudos to Gary and everybody else who comes up with these terms.
We'll have to pass that along. We love comments as creative. That's CAC is one of our other acronyms for it. Yes, the acronyms just go on and on and on. I think Gary's incredible at quotable quotes. People always talk about that in the world of PR, how to package something and scale it across the industry. So one other hot topic in our world at Vayner is live shopping. I was expecting to see more of it here. Did you hear anything about live shopping at Cannes Lion, or are we still too early on the adoption curve?
We are very early. I did do an agentic commerce panel yesterday, so it was kind of tangential to that. And then I had a really interesting conversation with Tessa Lyons, the VP of product at Instagram, and she was talking about live and live shopping and how important that's going to be. And she was saying that the live experience on Instagram is good, but it's not first class, and to pay attention because that was something that they were going to be leveling up is the live experience on Instagram. That series and long form content were kind of what she stressed during our conversation. So it's coming, it's percolating. I just don't know that it's kind of in everyone's consciousness yet.
I think it might take another 1 or 2 cans for us to see live shopping really emerge as a key theme. We were going to do a live shopping studio here, but because there's different rules around the IP signal, it was going to be tricky because if you're on the French IP, then you have to ship it to France. We decided we'll have to save this for another year. We'll have to keep coming back.
Same time, same place next year.
See you here next year. Thank you so much, Leah, for making the time.
Thank you.